And we've seen her now for several years. The little girl's about 5 years old now, and no mental problems, no physical problems, and Mom is doing well. So, good story. But sometimes it doesn't turn out that way. We had another child who had a burn when we were seeing the lecture on burns the other day. It made me think of her. We took care of this child. We didn't have xenografts, we just had gauze. So we took care of this little child who was badly, badly burned. For days, her parents would bring her in every day. And my nurse would take care of that, and then I would go in and check. And one morning, the mom and dad always brought her every morning, and they were very faithful to do this for this little girl. But one morning, they brought her in, and she was all wrapped up in a shroud. And she had died during the night. And her parents came, and they carried this little baby up to the two of us, and they said, "We wanted to come and tell you because you have treated her like you were her own her mother." And they were so thankful through their tears and ours. You know, not every outcome is what you want it to be. But we can walk through the valleys with our patients. And that gives them comfort and strength. And we need to remember that we're not God. We're not in control of everything that happens. But we can walk this road together, and we can certainly be there for the patients that we care for. And one of the great things about being in medicine is that you can just be learning all the time. There are lots of new stuff coming out, new possibilities, new techniques, new medicines. But the fact of the matter is, most of us are not going to be working in areas where you're going to have the best and the brightest available to you. So you're going to have to be creative in how you treat your patients. You're going to have to figure out, what can I do with the resources that I have that will be the best for the patients that I have. It's just really frustrating. I saw a lady who had chronic renal disease, and it was getting toward where it needed dialysis. She was otherwise, fine. And we were in a country that I think might have had 1 or 2 dialysis opportunities in the capital, and she was a long way from there. And so to have to tell her that she had a disease from which she would die unless something was done, to know that it would be possible to treat her somewhere else, and to not have that as an option. She didn't have the money to travel to the city. She didn't have the money to pay for the dialysis if she could even get in, and she would have no one to watch over her while she was there. I think one of the hardest things probably in any country, but especially when you know there's better treatments available and you can't give them, is to have to tell your patient, you have leukemia, and you're probably, medically speaking, you will probably die from this. Now what we can do, and I think there was a class on this, we're not God though. We really are not, and we don't know how much time He's going to give this person. We don't know whether He will intervene in their life in a special way. We will pray that He does. But I think we owe it to our patients to be honest with them as best we can in a sensitive, well-informed way, so that they can plan what to do with the information, with their illness, with the rest of their life. On a lighter note, you doctors are problem solvers. We like to see something and fix it, right? We also kind of like the detective mode. I think the mystery illness is, there are lots of TV shows about mystery illnesses where we get to look for the clues. And it is really exciting when you finally get the clue and you figure out what's going on. So as you practice your medicine, some of you're going to be in places and you may suddenly, one day, it may not happen often, but you may say, I'm seeing this pattern of disease. I've seen 5 people with this particular thing in the last 2 days. You know, what is going on? Is there a new epidemic? Is there something happening? We had that once happen in Honduras, and we were seeing patients in this village, and we don't usually see a lot of amoebic dysentery. But at the end of the day, when all the doctors got together and we talked with the lab tech, each of us had seen several cases of amoebic, dysentery. We thought, what is going on? Because all the houses had pumps. Well, it turns out the pumps were coming from a water system that was very up to date. But during a hurricane a couple of months before, the pipes had broken. So the system wasn't working, and the people were getting their water from the river. We were able to help the community figure out what to do. And we're not epidemiologists, but it was one of those things that you were able to help out in a situation and eventually encourage them to get their water system fixed. There's a little parable the community health people like to share, and it goes like this, and I'll give it to those of you who may be in this situation. There's a man standing on the side of a river, and he sees someone in the river drowning, and he thinks, oh man, so he jumps in, rescues the guy, puts him up on the bank, and almost before he's finished, he sees another one in the water, okay? So after he's rescued 3 or 4 people, he's thinking, something must be wrong that all these people are falling in the river. So he goes upstream and finds an area, a very dangerous area on the bank where people are falling in, and decides to build a fence so that they won't fall in. Well, some of you are probably, as you go out into practice, you're going to be fence builders. You're going to be in public health or epidemiology. Some of us are going to be the guy, rescuing the one in the water. I think these 2 parts of medicine work very well together, because if you only have the public health, the man in the water needs somebody to rescue him. So there's a place for all of us. God will take us different places, but we all work together. We'll get the job done. Let's see. We're going to skip over a little bit. Okay. I'm going to skip over some other stuff because I know it's things that I'll just mention it real quickly. There are a few things that we can do that are free, okay, that don't cost any money, that we can do when there's no resources for buying special medicine or technology. One of those things is learn to use what you do have well. If you have an ultrasound machine, it can diagnose a number of illnesses you'd never expect. Even, let's see, even some eye problems, as well as your regular gallbladder and kidney and so forth. So you use what you have. Then look to the strengths of your patient. His own personality, his ability to change his lifestyle if you give him the right advice. Think about his family, his friends, his support system. What about just the whole power of prevention? All that good patient education that you can give to help the patient take responsibility for himself. I don't think any of you really realize, perhaps, how much your patients really do listen when you give them advice. They've done the studies. Your words are powerful, so use them wisely. And remember, none of us like getting advice from somebody who's kind of giving us a hard time. We take advice from people who care about us, who we love. And listening is a very powerful tool, not just to help you figure out what the patient has wrong with them, but also just to listen to their heart. And you're just being there, like us with the little child, the power of your presence to walk through difficult times with your patient. Okay, well, let's go back again to the 7 million, and the last thing, of course, which I'll mention right here, never, ever, ever forget the power of prayer, because that's the bottom line. We can't fix it, but God can. So you have these 7 billion patients that you're going to be responsible for when you leave here. And they're all, lined up at your door. and you work, as we did, from morning till night, and there was always people waiting. You work 6 days a week, and after a year or two of doing that, we became exhausted and overwhelmed with what God was asking us to do back in that village in Bangladesh. I mean, there was never an end. People slept. Sunday we were closed. People would come and sleep in front of the clinic. They would hang their little bottles along the fence if they had to go buy food so they wouldn't lose their place in the line. What happens to us when we get overwhelmed? And you will be overwhelmed at some point in your life. Some people just get calloused. They start to just run through the patients and try not to take on any more emotional baggage than they have to. They kind of withdraw into themselves. They start treating their patients like diseases or numbers. You might even start being very rude to your colleagues. That's not a good thing. Not if they ask you to do something and you're just very rude to them, not good. And even worse, you may start to get that way to your family. I just want you to begin to have some mental checks in your mind. If you start realizing that your personality, your way of taking care of patients is changing, just stop. Just stop. Take the afternoon off. Go home. Talk to your friend. Pray. It's even good if you have a friend who you can be accountable to on a week-to-week basis, who can spot early if you're having some trouble, or that you can spot for them if they're starting to get overwhelmed. I think we doctors think we can do everything. We think we're supermen or superwomen, but we're not. And the burden is really too big for us to carry alone. We really need to look to one another to help us carry that burden. And we need to remember, what Jesus said, that when we are weary and heavy laden, we can come to Him, and He'll give us rest. Medicine is a wonderful tool to help us express the incredible love that God has poured out into us. But it's a tool. It's not your whole life. Don't make it that idol in your heart that we saw yesterday. If you feel like you're being driven to perform, driven to see more patients, driven to work harder, that's not God. Jesus doesn't drive us. He leads us. He's our shepherd. So if you're feeling driven, pressure, you need to stop and assess where you are and let God speak to your heart. Gather your friends to help you there. There's a verse in Galatians that says, having begun in the Spirit, are you going to try to end in your own strength? No. You all are having a good beginning. The Spirit of God is with you. But we can run so hard and so fast that we start running ahead of Him, and that's not a good thing. So, to close it up here, being a doctor, living as a physician, just living life. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you're going to burn yourself out if you're not careful. So take time. Take time to take care of yourself. Take time to take care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually. Take some time with your family and friends. You may have to schedule it because doctors get so busy. Someone else can be the doctor for your patient, but no one else can be the wife to your husband or the husband to the wife. Amen. No one else can be your mom's daughter or your dad's son. That's a job only you can do. So don't cut them out. Give them time. That's part of our life. So why? In the world, do we doctors and nurses and healthcare people want to spend all this time and energy on both the grateful and the ungrateful patients that we have? Why do we spend the best years of our youth studying and working all night in the hospital? Why do you go that extra mile to be your patient's advocate, to get something difficult done for them? Why do you expose yourself to a disease that you may catch? I don't know, I asked my daughter this question before I came, and she said, we work these crazy hours and do this job for the smile we have yet to see. And I thought, that's an interesting answer. And then I thought of the smile of the little child, smile of relief when you tell someone that they really don't have anything bad. When you see the smile through the tears of that family of that little child. And best of all, when you see the smile of your Heavenly Father, who's the one who called you in the first place into this incredible vocation.